up a small hill. With her small stature, she tried hard to bury two bodies under the torment of the strong rain, accompanied by bolts of lightning, which was the only source of light on such a night. Another lightning flash, and the facial features of the one burying the bodies became clearly shown. Her amber-colored eyes were truly enchanting, matching her chestnut hair and her snow-white skin, together with her cherry-colored lips. She was truly beautiful, and no one could compare. Adding to all these, she looks like a doll in its innocence. The lightning not only showed her elegant facial features, but as it continued to strike, and as one would look closer, her eyes were actually dead. It had lost all its radiance. As she looked from the two graves to the wreckage below the hill, which seemed to have just experienced a strong explosion, a cold glint crossed the depths of her archer eyes. She could still clearly remember how a car was there. It exploded, burning 3 bodies inside it. She could clearly remember how she tried hard not to make a sound, as a few men took all those bodies away after the fire was put out. And she could clearly remember how they pushed the car off the road and into the ocean. The dead look in her eyes seemed to have come back to life, but there was no warmth, only coldness. "An eye for an eye," she muttered, as she exuded an even colder aura, not matching her innocent look. She picked up the suitcase that was close to her and started descending the hill. The 2 graves were actually covered with bushes, so it is pretty well hidden. Adding to the fact that this was a small one in between mountains, across it was the vast ocean, whose waves were so strong at this moment that it seemed as if it were trying to capsize a boat. She was actually in this place since the night before. From pulling their bodies up the hill to digging and burying, everything happened in a span of 1 day, her body trembling heavily if not for some rations she had in her suitcase. The most difficult part was digging and burying the bodies. The only thing she could give the bodies was to cover them with a cloth. Despite the tiredness, she remained cold and indifferent. She didn't show any hint of exhaustion. Must be the fueling of anger? She herself didn't know. What she knows is that she will live, no matter what. "Wait for me. I shall make this hill mine," she thought, as she started walking towards the bustling city, which is quite a mile away. The reason why no one was alarmed about the explosion of the car and the things that happened here. It was a road that connects 2 cities without much going through on this kind of day. With barely eating or drinking, she traveled for 2 days and finally arrived at the city gates on the night of the 2nd day. There are passing cars, but she could not bring herself to hitch a ride. She looked at the elegant-looking hotel in front of her, which was a 45-floor hotel, and obviously it was also a luxurious one. She had no other choice right now. Despite having been trained since childhood, she is still a normal person who gets tired, and currently, she truly is very tired. All that she wanted was to rest. This is her first choice because this place is the closest to the city gates. "Allow me to use this for a little bit. I just need to start at something," she thought as she held a card tight in her hand. As she entered the building, she already felt different types of stares coming her way. Most of it was disgust, while some were disbelief, and others were insults. She really can't do anything now, can she? She does look like a beggar. Even her doll-like face was covered with dirt, so no one could see her true looks. Only a very poor-looking appearance. Halfway through the main lobby, she was stopped by 2 burly men. "We're sorry, miss, we have nothing to give you here." Their words implied that she must be there to beg for some food or something. Instead of pushing them to allow her to check in, she sneered at them before looking at all the onlookers and turning, leaving with elegant steps despite looking like a beggar. She thinks anyone can just enter the Fire Empire Hotel? In her dreams, one person in the reception said with disgust, as she looked down at the girl who had just come and left. Little did they know that this would be the cause of the hotel's demise in the near future. "Miss, do you need a place to stay? We are open here." As she walked, she heard a voice calling for her. Looking around, a middle-aged woman was looking at her with a warm smile. Her looks couldn't compare to the lady she had buried back in the hill, especially since her looks seemed like it was already worn out through the difficulties of years of living. Wrinkles were visible at the sides of her eyes, but they were warm. Looking at those brown eyes, the girl thought for a bit. "You're accepting beggars?" she couldn't help but ask. Well, coming out of that place, she is actually quite irritated, adding to the fact that she is tired and hungry, and she just wants to take a long, warm bath. "Yes, and I don't think you are a beggar, though. Adding to the fact that our place is too shabby, I can only offer you so much," the middle-aged lady still replied warmly. She pulled her suitcase and followed the lady inside the 30-floor hotel. Looking around, she can tell that this place is coming to its end. When the lady looked back, she could only smile sadly. "Well, we just want to fulfill the reason why this place was built until the end. I am Beatrice Miller, by the way, owner of this place and currently the receptionist as well. My daughter and niece are helping me, but currently they are in another part-time job." They were able to maintain it visually: the tiled floor without any damage, the chandelier that had all its bulbs working, the staircase going up to an event place, and everything was in its optimal state. But she knew this was mostly the best products of the past. They could only maintain it. And seeing that it is almost empty, with very few people consisting of guests and staff, it is indeed about to end. I'm Hazel Stone. I must say, despite being at the edge, you are still able to manage it properly, madam, she smiled and replied respectfully. She saw all the pictures hanging and knew that this was once a flourishing hotel, but seeing that the Fire Empire Hotel was standing tall not far away from it, she could tell that this hotel had taken a huge blow. What a wonderful name, quite befitting of the color of your eyes. Very well, I know you're very tired. I shall check you in now. Hazel watched Beatrice check her in before handing over the card she was holding so tightly. Eloise's eyes grew wide, for the card she was handed was a ruby card. Anyone who sees this surely understands that the person in front of them is of a wealthy descent. This is the second most expensive card. Only a few could have it. Cards in this world were categorized into topaz, sapphire, emerald, ruby, and diamond. Where small enterprises or small business owners could only hold topaz, mostly the royals, who reign over a few countries, hold a diamond, which could also be termed the clear card. Even Beatrice's family was only able to hold the sapphire one in the past. The ruby card also has a fingerprint identification, so not just anyone could use it. And yet, Beatrice has no idea where a very rich Stone family resides. It is a very common family name. Beatrice looked up and smiled. I'm sorry, but can I have a few identification documents from you? A passport or birth certificate. Hazel knew that she was indeed underage and knew that this was something that most hotels abide by. She smiled and opened the pocket of her suitcase before bringing out her passport. Beatrice thanked her and completed the check-in process. Just as she was about to pick a room, Hazel opened her mouth and asked, "Can I have the biggest room you can offer?" Beatrice blinked and thought for a bit before giving an offer. "Well, our family stays here on the ground floor, so the penthouse is open. Would you like to be there? I shall accept your offer then. And please do deduct the cost of my food from there for a month as well. Thank you very much," Hazel asked nicely. 1 month. Just give me a month, father, mother. By then, I shall start standing up on my own. As for her clothes, she had another card where it was purely her money, which she gained from things she did. She wasn't planning to use this much from the card she was holding, but this place was the first place that picked her up, and she could only return the favor. An eye for an eye. These words could also be used positively. Very well. Thank you as well for choosing our hotel. Beatrice was truly delighted. Hazel's arrival just saved their hotel for another 3 months. Truly, she is a blessing. No, thank you for choosing me. I shall return this favor once I have settled down. Her words held a deeper meaning, but Beatrice will only understand it in the near future. For now, she could only accept it as it is. Welcome to our new novel. Please do enjoy a very different genre from our previous one. Word count for this novel would be mostly 1,500 and above. After boarding the elevator, Beatrice brought her to the 30th floor. The room was still at its peak. Hazel could tell that this place had still been maintained despite the difficulties. And when she shook Beatrice's hand a while ago, she could feel the calluses a rich lady like herself shouldn't have. She already has an understanding of how much Beatrice and her family are currently facing. That gave her an even more positive outlook on this hotel owner, and it made her want to help them even more. Well, that shall be set in stone once she meets the other family members. Beatrice, seeing how tired Hazel looks, decided to bid her farewell and that the food would arrive once she gave the call. To which Hazel replied that it would be delivered, if possible, in half an hour. Beatrice looked at Hazel more positively, for this young one talks so politely and respectfully, despite the status their family is currently in. She never looked at anything with disgust. And Beatrice could feel that everything Hazel was showing was not an act at all. After the door closes, Hazel looks at the enormous room, which has its own kitchen and living room. There's another door for 2 bedrooms and another for the bathroom. She settled her suitcase in the bedroom and opened it, without taking a bath first or changing. She took out a sky blue colored laptop, opened it, and typed a few keys before several CCTV shots were displayed. She searched through it and clicked on one. That one was the CCTV that had the clearest view of what had happened a while ago in the other hotel. Yes, that's right. These CCTV shots are from the Fire Empire Hotel. It didn't even take her 5 minutes to get through its security. As a renowned hacker, this is like child's play. Hazel was able to start her journey in hacking at the tender age of 10. Her parents at the beginning were unaware, and she really didn't like using it to earn anything. A lot of people tried to take her service but were rejected. They couldn't trace her, so no one knows that she was actually still so young. Her code name was Muse. They said that the way she types those codes and executes them, It was like she was playing a piano, typing on the keys so smoothly and leisurely. She saved the video of what had transpired a while ago in the hotel lobby and placed it in a folder, adding the date and what had happened. She has a wonderful memory, but this shall serve as her reminder, for she will deal with this at a different time. An eye for an eye, after all. Just after she shut down her laptop, her doorbell rang. Opening it, she was welcomed by the aroma of the food and a bright, smiling teen who looked like she was the same age as her. "Hi, I'm Chloe Miller, daughter of Beatrice Miller. I came to bring your food and meet our benefactor. I am also thanking you for helping us. Then I shall be going now," she blurted out. And without waiting for Hazel's reply or before she could even react, she left. Hazel blinked in confusion at what had just happened and shrugged. She felt like a whirlwind had just gone by. She placed the food on top of the kitchen counter and noticed that medicine was there as well. That's when she remembered that she was not left unscathed back then. She could only smile self-deprecatingly upon remembering those events once again before she went for a long, warm bath. She'll just reheat the food after that. Meanwhile, Chloe arrived at the ground floor and happily approached her mother. Her mother told her that their benefactor was of the same age as her, but she didn't believe her and insisted on bringing the food up herself. Seeing that girl who hadn't changed yet and still looked like a beggar, she could finally imagine what her mother said, that this girl was told to leave the Fire Empire Hotel. But she is also happy because that hotel actually threw out gold within a stone. Seriously, the "you can never judge a book by its cover" applies so much to them. Mother, she happily skipped towards her mother. "So have you seen her? Your curiosity sometimes is truly too much." She just grinned. They can finally heave a sigh of relief. A 3-month debt was paid off because of what Hazel had just done. Their family was once known in this city as a rich family. Even other cities have heard of Snowfall Hotel. But when that Fire Empire Hotel came into the picture, somehow people started thinking badly about them. Rumors about their hotel being infested by pests and that they are serving food with insects and so much more. Even words about them not taking proper care of their guests were spread. But in reality, it was the guests who were suddenly being unreasonable. There were even proofs that caused their hotel to go down. All those so-called friends finally showed their true colors. Even the Phillips family, which was her paternal family, suddenly turned a blind eye. Her father, who begged them for help, was actually married off to someone else. Her mother didn't even know that she had agreed to a divorce. The Phillips family's business leans on clothing. They have their own clothes shop in 5 cities. She was the only daughter, and so her paternal family didn't care. She is a daughter, after all. At first, her father was still secretly sending money to them and was assuring them that he would return. But that did not last long. Soon he too was gone. She saw him once across a road, and her heart was completely shattered. He was walking with his new wife and holding a son in his arms, and he completely ignored her. That day, she vowed that she would bring her maternal family to great heights and make all of them regret that they had turned their back on them. The Miller family was of a humble background. It was her mother who persevered to establish their hotel and gained Ethan Gray's affection. But before it could expand, Fire Empire Hotel emerged. "Don't worry, Mother. Soon we will be able to pay all our debts, and this hotel will flourish once again. I will definitely use my fashion design skills to do that." She then raised her hand into a fist, making a promise to herself that she shall climb that ladder no matter how difficult it is. Somehow, the fire deep within her that was about to be extinguished flared up once again. She was losing hope due to the fact that the hotel was about to reach its limit. Despite working part-time, it will obviously never be enough to support the hotel. She was even thinking of ways to pay the next interest on their bank loan as she walked home a while ago. Her mood was clearly affected, and she was completely down. Who would have thought that upon coming home, her mother had good news for her? She then thought back to the look that girl had once she opened the door. She was completely dirty, and she really looked like a beggar. But why? What had she encountered before coming here? Something terrible must have happened on her way here. But to think that she was actually a rich young lady. Surely once those Fire Empire staff find out about this, they would look for the closest wall to bang their heads. Just thinking about it made Chloe's mood even brighter. Her hatred towards that hotel was so deep that not even a simple apology could placate it. Especially since she found out that the woman her father married was the daughter of one of the major shareholders of Fire Empire Hotel. She was fuming inside when a warm hand was placed on top of her head, snapping her out of her thoughts. "I can clearly tell that your mind is going astray once again. Stop thinking about revenge, let them have their life, and because of no longer being part of their family, our lives are even more peaceful. Without needing to curry favor with that old woman, I feel so free right now," Beatrice said upon noticing her daughter's behavior. She would be lying if she said that she's no longer hurt, because who wouldn't? The man you trusted to be there at your worst suddenly disappeared halfway. Then by the time you realized it, you were no longer married to him, and he already had a new family. She could only smile bitterly back then upon finding out. Don't worry, Mother, our hotel will rise back to its feet. It will become much, much better than the Fire Empire Hotel. We will open different branches in different cities, and then we will even open branches abroad. Soon, Snowfall Hotel will become renowned all over the world. Chloe grinned as she spoke of her plan. The mother and daughter happily chatted more regarding this matter, as if they were not facing bankruptcy. The mood was positive, and the atmosphere was a happy one. It had been Chloe's dream ever since she was a child to have her own clothing line. Her father's family had clothing shops, and so she was introduced to clothes from a young age. In the past, she had wanted to create designs in order to help her father's business prosper, but right now, she wanted to do it in order to make all those who left them and mocked them regret ever doing so. The mother and daughter who were talking about Chloe's dream were then joined by another voice. Then I shall do my best in hotel management to help Aunt out while you design those clothes. But do remember, I should be your first model. It was Maya Miller. She was the daughter of Beatrice's only sibling, her older brother. She had decided to come here from the countryside to help her aunt and cousin in the hotel, for they never forgot their family when they were still rich. At the age of 16, she already reached the height of 5 feet 7 inches, and at her age, she still has time for improvement. The proportion of her body was also perfect. Maya indeed has the body of a model. Her humble appearance is the only downside, but overall, she could be a sought-after model. Even while working at a convenience store, some people would ask her if she was a model. Both she and Chloe have black hair. Hers reached her waist, while Chloe's reached her armpit. Both have wavy hair, matched with their brown, almost black eyes. Their complexion was fair, and their facial features were enough to make a few turn around to look back at them. It is visible that Miller's blood is stronger than Philip's, for most of Chloe's features came from her mother. And people would say that she was the carbon copy of her mother back when Beatrice was young. Chloe looked at Maya from top to bottom as she circled her as if scrutinizing her. Maya laughed as she slapped Chloe's arm. Stop that, will you? As if you still don't know my proportion. You've been doing most of my clothes. They would buy pre-loved clothes, and Chloe would alter everything to their sizes. So they don't need to look for clothes in their sizes, but instead for clothes with good design. Geez, will you let me be a professional designer just for a bit? Chloe touched her arm as she pouted. With your eyes, one look, and you'll know the sizes of those around you. That is professional enough already, Maya replied with a smile. Being surrounded by clothes, it became natural for Chloe to watch people daily and try to measure them with only her eyes. Doing this for so long, she somehow developed her eyes. And how about the girl upstairs? Have you checked? Maya asked. She had heard about the person who was now staying in the penthouse. She was referring to what Chloe must have observed after seeing Hazel when she brought up her food. More or less. But I think she hasn't really eaten for a day or two. She looked like she had lost weight. Her clothes became a little loose. I think that when that was bought, it must have fitted her perfectly. Without batting an eye, Chloe started describing what she saw. So you really did check her out? Maya turned agape. She was just saying it on the passing. Who would have thought that Chloe indeed checked her out? My eyes are used to it, without intending that I would always end up noticing those things, Chloe defended. Beatrice couldn't help but shake her head. She just felt so lucky that no matter what had happened to her family, she had these two who helped her overcome all those hardships. As the three of them chat happily, Hazel finishes her bath and is currently looking at the remaining clothes in front of her. Most of her clothes were thrown out to make space for the things she truly needed. Their house before coming here was already cleaned out as well, since they came here to fulfill a promise, and after that, they plan on staying in this country. But she also knew that this promise wasn't something that simple. Her parents must have another thought or plan about it. She'll only find out once she meets the people whom her parents made an appointment with. The only problem is that her parents were unable to tell her where she should start looking. Because of how things unfolded, she was unable to ask, and her father was unable to tell. She could only start in the city they were heading to, which is this city. I just hope this city won't be too big. This is the 3rd year. If I don't meet them, then the promise would be for naught. She can just forget it if she wouldn't be able to find them, but knowing what the promise was, she couldn't just abandon them. And she knew how important this promise was to her parents. As she picked a cloth and breathed deeply on the fabric, the scent of her mother, who helped her pack, was still there. Her tears that had stopped coming out ever since she buried their bodies came rushing out as she sat on the floor, burying her face in the clothes. Of course it was painful. It was so painful to be the one to bury your own parents' bodies, and in a place that is secluded from everything. In that cold place, she had to bury them. She cried to her heart's content, not worrying whether someone might come and hear her. Don't forget to take care of yourself. Eat and sleep properly. When it's cold, wear warmer clothes. When it's hot, just try not to wear too short clothing. Just please take care of yourself. We love you, always." Her mother's last words resounded in her mind after a long while of crying. She wiped her eyes and nose, then changed into a set of clothes. She then walked to the kitchen and reheated the food that had arrived more than an hour ago. She then played songs on her phone to make the place a little bit livelier as she ate. Still, tears flow from her eyes. This is the first time she is eating alone in a new place. Whenever she sets foot in a new place, she is with her parents, together with the bodyguards loyal to her father. But they all slowly died, one after another. The last ones died in the last country before they came here. Who would have thought that her countries would follow soon after, leaving her all on her own? After cleaning the dishes, she went to sleep. To be more precise, cried herself to sleep. Be strong, sweetheart. Remember that even if we're not around, you have to be strong and don't let others look down on or bully you. You are a proud daughter of ours, after all. I'm not telling you to do it now, maybe 5 years later or so, but do find a man who will love you more than we do. Someone who will cherish you for who you are and not because of your background. Live happily. We love you. Her dream was filled with her father's last words. For the next few days, she had ordered food but never came out of the room. Beatrice, Chloe, and Maya, of course, noticed her pale complexion. But it was not their business to ask her or anything. Just that, since she was their benefactor, they couldn't help but feel bad. So they would sometimes add herbal porridge to her order, saying that it was on the house. "She looks like a broken doll," one time, Chloe couldn't help but say. Of course, they have seen her true countenance and have noticed not just her pale complexion, but her numb eyes as well. And now, after a week, after she finished the porridge and felt her energy rising, Hazel couldn't help but smile at this concern of theirs. Over the past week, she started creating a plan for how she will take her revenge. Right now, she has nothing. She may have the money, but that is far from enough. In her plan, it was still a grain of sand. So she needs to do something about it first, and she wants to do this without touching her parents' money that they left her. Her revenge, she will take it all on her own. That is why the first step she took was to donate all their remaining assets to orphanages and other organizations. It may seem stupid, but this is the step she wants to take. This is the first step of the rise of Hazel Stone. After cleaning up, she fixed her appearance, and for the first time since her arrival, she finally went down. Today is a weekend, and so Chloe and Maya are in there. Their part-time job was only during the weekdays. "Oh, good morning." They were at the reception when they saw her come out of the elevator. Though shocked, they couldn't help but stare at her. After fixing herself, she looks even more beautiful. Hazel smiled and walked towards them. Looking around, there are still a few customers coming in and out. Summing it up with what she had heard from Beatrice on the first day of her arrival, these people must have come from other cities and couldn't truly afford the Fire Empire Hotel's cost. "Good morning, are you free right now?" "I have some inquiries," she asked warmly as she smiled at the two of them. Chloe, who was first curious, called for Serena, one of the employees of Snowfall Hotel, who still chose to stay, to stand in the reception. She then guided Hazel to the coffee shop of their hotel. A bartender is still there. Upon seeing the three of them, he smiled and asked for their order. He then left to make the coffee of their choice. Hazel looked at him and the very few customers around, one or two. Well, we really are at the bottom already, and so the bartender is also the waiter of the shop. Yet in the past, this coffee shop was flourishing for its coffee and pastries. We found a gem after all, but money is all he wants. So when the Fire Empire Hotel invited him, of course, he instantly went there. Chloe said bitterly upon seeing the look on Hazel's face. Hazel only smiled, not commenting. It was not her place to do so. Maybe in the future, but now, she is just a customer of theirs. Upon receiving the coffee, she went straight to the point of what she wanted to inquire about. "I wish to enter a university. What place allows a scholar with some benefits? Can you recommend some?" Of course, hearing Hazel speak about scholarship, both Chloe and Maya have their brows furrowed. Wasn't she their benefactor who didn't even bat an eyelid at taking the biggest, which is the most expensive room? They also watched how bags and bags of clothes were delivered. She even paid for the whole month of her food and lodging. Seeing this, Hazel smiled and sheepishly said, "I have used up all of my money, and so I can only enter school through a scholarship. Adding to that, to live after this month, there are so many things I have to do." Chloe and Maya looked at each other. "But you have that?" Chloe couldn't help but ask. They just couldn't wrap their minds around the things Hazel was saying all of a sudden. Hazel took a deep breath and sighed. "Well, I do have that. If we are talking about the same thing." Both of them were referring to her Ruby card. "But my usage of that is only one time, and so I am planning on moving out of the penthouse and occupying one of your servant rooms once the month is up. I am planning on helping out here to have a place to stay. I am also planning on getting a part-time job to feed myself. And a scholarship that also has a stipend, so that would help me as well. Of course, she did not need all of this. She has the money to let her stay in the penthouse, but just as she had thought through her plan, what she has now is nothing compared to her plan. So she wishes to save as much as she can because she wants to start her plan as soon as possible. Chloe and Maya looked at each other once again. Chloe then excused herself, saying that this should be discussed with her mother. Soon, Beatrice arrived with confusion visible on her face and sat down with them. Upon hearing Hazel's words, she fell into deep thought. "By chance, did you run away from home?" she finally asked after a few moments of thinking. Hazel was underage, and the card was a one-time use. She can't come up with any other reason for the suddenness of Hazel's situation. Something like that, but it's more like I really can't go home right now. Due to certain circumstances, I could only stay here and gain my own identity. Are your parents not worried? Oh, for sure, they are very much worried, leaving their daughter alone in the middle of a very dangerous world. I'm sure they must be worried. It's just they can't do anything about it, she replied solemnly. Her eyes glazed over as loneliness enveloped her. Beatrice understood her underlying meaning. Adding her puffy eyes and pale complexion for the past days, she understood that Hazel's parents are gone from this world. But this amazed Beatrice even more. Hazel is a 16-year-old girl. After facing such a tremendous change in her life, she stood back up after just a week. She sure is mature and strong. Yet Beatrice could also see that this girl stood back up, but her heart was still in shambles. I won't try to dig any deeper into it, but, she trailed off. Their family really couldn't afford another blow. If Hazel's background were to suddenly come and cause chaos, please, I won't put your family at a disadvantage. Right now, I just need to save up a little, then I will leave the hotel. Whatever mess I am in right now, you won't get involved. Those people won't be able to come to me in the near future. Understanding what Beatrice was pointing out, Hazel immediately explained. Hazel's smile and understanding look, Beatrice felt a tug in her heart. If this girl were to sit still and not do anything, anyone would mistake her for a real-life doll. But her eyes, no matter how many times she smiles, always look dead. Her circumstances are obviously not simple, but Beatrice is a natural, kind woman. She really couldn't leave this girl alone. Adding to the fact that even though she had said that she used up all her money, how she did it still saved their hotel without batting an eyelid. Then something clicked in Beatrice's mind before she smiled in defeat. She realized that Hazel was not planning on taking up the most expensive room. She was not planning on staying that long in their hotel. She must only be planning to stay for a day or two, then she would search for an apartment to stay in. But she had helped them instead. She must have seen the letters regarding our loan lying on the reception table. Beatrice couldn't help but think as she sighed. Very well, but I want you to stay in the penthouse. No one stays there. I need someone to tend to the place. You can help with minor stuff around the hotel. As for the university, why don't you go to the same university that these two are planning to go to? It has great benefits. Really, Mother? Can she really stay? In reality, adding another friend was a great opportunity for Chloe and Maya. There were only the two of them after all. Hazel came from a different place, and so she hasn't been fed lies by those people who wished nothing but the downfall of their family. Yes, she shall be staying. I will be your guardian since you really can't enroll without a guardian. These two will help you out in looking for a part-time job. Beatrice stood up. And you don't need to leave. I know you will protect us even if something bad is really chasing you. She then left, and the other two squeaked that they had gained another friend, while Hazel could only stare in bewilderment. You accepted me just like that? What if I am a bad person, or a selfish one at that? She asked Beatrice. Having gone through such an ordeal, where your family could only continuously run away, being faced with nothing but evil people with evil minds, then suddenly being shown so much kindness coming even from a stranger, Hazel just couldn't believe it. Beatrice looked back and smiled at her. No, you are a very good person, and I know your parents would be very much proud to have you as their daughter. Hazel was dumbfounded, but she could only shrug it off. At least for now, her place is set, and she can enroll in a school. She has no documents, after all, other than her passport and a birth certificate. If she wants to start up for revenge, she first needs a university diploma. In a university, she would also be able to check some potential and bring them to her side. At the same time, it would give her a background. Chloe and Maya told her that they, too, are planning on applying for scholarships. Chloe would be applying for the fashion designing department, and Maya would be applying for the hotel management department. Then they excitedly informed her that the convenience store where they are currently working part-time is hiring. Without waiting for her reply, they called their manager and introduced her, and just like that, She already has a part-time job. Hazel felt like her head was spinning. All her plans were going too smoothly. And it is scary, but for now, she doesn't have much choice. She will accept whatever she can. Even if the pay at the convenience store is not much, it would still be an addition. Not just in terms of money, but also in her background. She was also planning on taking up little projects, like web design and helping out with game making. With those, she wouldn't need to be concerned about her identity as the Muse, who was much more known for hacking. Then, as if remembering something, Chloe asked, "What department would you be taking then?" Hazel also returned to reality upon hearing her question. "Oh, I would be in the computer science department." She could have chosen others, but she was simply trying to make a background, so it doesn't matter. Plus, this is the closest to what she was best at. Both girls once again had their eyes widened, for computer science is obviously a very difficult course. "Mom, I have a question. How did you know that Hazel is a kind girl?" That night, Chloe couldn't help but ask her mother. Her mother had been very cautious towards strangers ever since their hotel went down the hill, so it completely baffles her to see her mother act towards someone who was only there for a week. "That girl saved us, not unintentionally but intentionally instead." "I think you understand this with the way she explained her condition," Beatrice replied as she computed the hotel finances. Chloe nods her head as she falls into a deep thought. "Then, do you think the brilliance of her eyes will return?" Beatrice's movements stopped as she looked up to her daughter. Seeing the shock in her mother's eyes, Chloe pouted. "I can see it, of course. Her parents just died, so even when she smiles, her eyes are still dead. We have no idea what exactly happened to her family, and we barely knew her. Maybe someday, when both sides have enough trust for each other, we will find out the reason, and maybe we will be able to help her out," Beatrice replied with warmth. They are still considered strangers after all. Allowing Hazel to stay and help her enroll was Beatrice's payment for her help. You can only repay kindness with kindness. If you are a real human, that is. In her room without its lights on, she turned the flashlight of her new phone on and shone it on the pendant of her necklace. Just as the light passed through it, an image was projected on the wall opposite her. There were 5 people in the picture, each with a smile on their face. "I will surely return," she muttered, looking at the image. "Sir Leo, this is the one I told you about. Her name is Hazel," Chloe introduced the manager of the convenience store. He was a man in his early 30s. His physical appearance wasn't outstanding, but he has this gentle look in him, like a big brother ready to look after his younger siblings. Hazel was standing by the door, standing straight and looking around her. The convenience store wasn't that big, but it was not small either. There are 5 pairs of shelves facing each other, 5 drink refrigerators lining up on one side. There are also 3 drink dispensers, one for different juices, one for sodas, and another for hot drinks. There's also a cooler for bread and rice meals, and there are 2 freezers for the ice creams. The ventilation was also good, and the brightness made people feel at ease. On one side, there are 5 tables with 2 bench chairs on each. As she was doing her observations, Leo was staring at her in amazement. "If this girl weren't looking around, I would have thought that they brought a human-sized doll." He then whispered to Chloe, "Hey, are you sure she can do the work here?" "She looked like a young heiress or something." Chloe smiled. Indeed, Hazel, after she recovered from her paleness and all, had changed drastically. She was able to gain back the weight that she seemed to have lost. Both Chloe and Maya also asked her if she is ready for such work, and Hazel assured them that she'll learn diligently and would do her best not to embarrass them. She was very much willing to learn, and we have seen her dedication back at home. Teach her once, and she will be able to do it on her own. She also has no qualms about any work you give her, Chloe whispered back. Hazel, who heard them whispering, looked back at the 3 of them before smiling and bowing politely. Their whispers couldn't really be called a whisper. "I may be new in these things, but I promise not to let you down for allowing me to work here." Leo was taken aback by her politeness. He could only reply, flustered, No. If you can do it without many mistakes, then that would be fine. I suppose Chloe and Maya have already told you the basics?" She stood up straight once again. "Yes, they have informed me of everything. The pay shall be given every week, and we also have our days off every weekend. But because school will be starting soon, there will be changes, and we will work from 5 in the afternoon to 9 in the evening on weekdays, and from 7 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon on the weekends. Yes, that would be it. I just hope your studies won't be affected." In reality, Leo was once helped by Beatrice when the hotel was still doing fine. He was on the verge of losing the store. This store was inherited by him from his father, who inherited it from his grandfather. He didn't want to lose it, but because the city is booming and more competitors have popped up, he started losing customers. Beatrice, who was a frequent visitor to his store when she was just starting, helped him get back on his feet. The money he had borrowed from her had long been paid, but the kindness was something he always wanted to repay. But since it was just a small business, he couldn't help them in any way, so he could only offer a part-time job for the children while not disrupting their studies. And Chloe and Maya had been working here for a year now. He could only offer a part-time job because they were just 15 years old back then, plus they were still studying. He was just glad that even though it was small, he was still able to help them. Anyway, since it is your first day, why not observe them for now? You can start doing more work by tomorrow, he then smiled and said. I understand, thank you very much. The day passed as the two helped Hazel get acquainted with the work, though they were amazed at how fast she memorized everything. The placement of the goods, the way to handle the counter, and the inventory of the goods. Of course, it wasn't only once that people would stare at her when she was not moving, and be startled when she looked back at them. I've heard about it from my mother. When she was young, she had so many experiences regarding buying a doll in a department store. She only escaped that kind of predicament when her features started changing when she became 20 years old. She couldn't help but sigh while shaking her head. Do I have to wait for another 4 years to escape this? People should know that it is rude to stare, she continued complaining in her mind. Others say she was lucky to have such facial features, but easy for them to say. They didn't know how difficult it is to speak to others with this look. Someone would even be frightened by it. Imagine sitting beside a doll, then suddenly that doll stands up and walks away? Maybe I should just wear a mask. No, people would even be more curious about it. She was currently in the break room. I'm just glad it is nearing impossible for people who knew me to come here. The others from the past didn't know this face either, so even if we passed through each other, they would just think that I looked familiar. Her thoughts wandered as she looked at her reflection in the mirror. I wonder if it would be them. Would they recognize this face? It's already been 8 years after all. Despite that, I must say just a change in color and my looks have changed drastically. I even became whiter. She once again sighed. A blessing for this time or not? I'm glad that she seems much better, but is this a trait of hers? Talking to herself? Maya whispered to Chloe. The two of them entered the break room just to see Hazel sighing and looking at the mirror, then her facial features would change from time to time. Maybe there really were just so many things in her mind, and that is how she coped? Chloe asked in return. Hazel felt someone staring at her when she returned to reality. Looking at the side, she saw Maya and Chloe smiling uncertainly at her. Not good. My habit just came naturally. They must think I am weird or maybe crazy, she thought before standing up and smiling at them as well. Sorry about that. I just had the habit of organizing my thoughts once I am not doing anything, she sheepishly said. No, we're just glad that you look much better now, Chloe replied as they sat down with her. Hazel was stunned at first before she smiled with a tinge of sadness. You guys really are kind. There, you're being down once again. We only knew each other for a few weeks, but since you helped us first, then surely we would help you as well, Chloe instantly said as she smacked Hazel in the shoulder. Chloe! Maya was shocked by what her cousin just did. Oops, sorry, my habit as well. That is why my mother always scolds me. No, it is fine. I would feel at ease if you acted normally with me, so I can be my natural self around you. That way our relationship would become better, don't you think so? Hazel replied with a smile. Maya and Chloe smiled back before Chloe spoke up once again. Then I'll act more natural until our friendship becomes deeper. She stretched out her hand, asking for a handshake. Hazel accepted it, and she and Maya did the same. The three girls had a good time chatting with each other before they returned to work. That night in her room, she was looking at the dress she was wearing when she just arrived. It was already washed by her and was already dry. She hung it up in her closet, so that allowed her to see it the moment she opened it. There are 4 closets in all in the room, but that one was empty except for that dress. The dress itself was already in tatters, and the hem had tears on it. There were also holes. Happy 16th birthday! Once we are done with this business, we promise you will have a much more peaceful life. And in commemoration of that, here's our gift for you. That was the day before their death. A tear dropped from her eyes. The kindness that the Miller family is showing her overwhelms her completely, causing her to keep missing her parents. It hasn't been that long since it happened, and with her young age, no one would blame her for still crying herself to sleep, even if a year has already passed. She stood there just watching the last gift she received from her parents. Peaceful life? I guess I'll never have that now, Mother, Father. I am sure that after I get back at them, all the sins that I will have will be so much that heaven will surely not accept me once I die. After knowing the day for the entrance examinations, Hazel went to business, not wasting even a second of her time. During breaks from the part-time job, she would be reading. Once she had done the set things she needed to do in the hotel, she would instantly return to her room and start studying. Even though she did not neglect her studies with her parents, she still wants to do her best instead of simply relying on what she already knew. Others may say that she has the money to still enroll from her other gigs, but she wanted to save every penny she can because of how big her plan is. At the same time, she'd only use her parents' money once all of this is over. Because what they wanted was for her to have a peaceful life, but she chose revenge, so that money is not for it. This is her decision, and this is her stand when it comes to her revenge. Chloe and Maya were both shocked and motivated after seeing her take it seriously. They knew she was smart. She must have been an honor student, yet here she was studying diligently for the entrance exam. That's why they, too, took it seriously. After some hesitations, the two of them finally decided to go to her to study together and ask questions they didn't understand. "Come on in then," Hazel smiled as she opened the door for them. There was a space between the elevator door and the door to the penthouse. This is so that when one arrives, you wouldn't be barging into the room without permission. They were once again astonished because papers were pasted everywhere. The walls, the windows, the kitchen counter, the table, they're just everywhere. What caught their attention more was the dartboard across the sofa, a meter or so away from the main door. Pinned on it were darts, and most of them were close to the center. This was a bit out of place, for Hazel didn't seem like someone who does darts. Upon closer look, there were even some line marks, something not coming from darts. Seeing their look, she explained as she freed up some space around the center table and the sofa. "That's how I study sometimes. As I memorize and understand what I am studying, I use darts to free up some tension in me. Though I do use a different piece from time to time," she added inwardly. They nodded in understanding as they sat down around the table. After explaining their purpose, Hazel readily accepted their request. She was only studying hard to add more to what she knew. It doesn't hurt to be much more ready, right? And since the three of them were in different departments, what the two wanted to study with her was more on the basic side. "Shall we start then?" A buzzing noise could be heard all through the campus. Hazel looked around excitedly and found the place very beautiful. Just as you'd expect from the most prestigious school in town. As someone who could not enter any school, this is her first time in one, and she couldn't help but feel excited. For her primary school diploma, she had graduated early before they departed from that place. At the same time, she took another exam for another identity. This way, she would have official certificates with her. The same goes for her secondary school diploma. It was only exams taken as proof that her knowledge was already enough for her to be considered a graduate. Today was the day of their exams for the scholarship that the three of them are applying to. All departments are having their examinations at the same time. The day we have been waiting for. I am excited, but at the same time anxious. I wish I could pass and have my tuition be free. That's all I want, Maya said as they entered the campus. They became close after the 2 weeks they spent together studying for the entrance exam for the scholarship held on the first day of August. The class starts in the second week of September. Currently, all those who have the money are already enrolled, and the remaining spots are for the scholars. Of course, it would be based on ranking. If there are 10 slots left, then the top 10 would be accepted. Don't be too anxious. The two of you have studied more than enough. Right now, all you have to do is trust yourself and do your best, Hazel encouraged them. The two smiled and nodded their heads. Soon they went on their separate ways. After entering the campus, all the buildings of different departments were in different parts of the campus, and so they said their good lucks and went their own ways, deciding to meet by the main entrance after they're done with their own exams. Hazel looked around happily as she walked lightly. Who would have thought that she would be given this chance? And it was given to her on her last chance to enter a school. She held on to the star pendant around her neck. "Mom, Dad, this is my first step. I know you were just protecting me. That's why I was always homeschooled. But right now, I really am happy that I could experience school life." Upon arriving at the building for computer science, she was in awe. The whole building was magnificent enough and brought her the feeling of really being in school and becoming a student. She looked like she was even skipping as she went inside and asked the one on duty where the examination would take place. The computer science building was at the center of the campus. It was also the most difficult one to enter, especially for scholars. Since computer science was the main department of University A, the man looked at her before pointing at the note posted on the bulletin board beside him. It says that the examination room would be held on the second and third floors. The building has 4 floors. She looked at the man and apologized before climbing up the stairs. It was still early for her. The examination would be at 10 in the morning, and yet it is just 9. She still has an hour before it starts, so she started walking up the stairs on this side. She would then walk down the hall to the other side before walking up the stairs there. She was looking around the whole building, checking their rooms from time to time. She arrived on the floor and wanted to check the last floor when she was stopped. "Are you an examinee?" the one guarding the stairs asked. Looking around, she could tell that this was the only stair heading to the last floor. "I am," she answered respectfully. "This is the last floor where the examination takes place. The top floor is off limits to every student other than the student council president." Seeing as she was not arrogant at all and stood respectfully towards an elder, the guard answered calmly. "She is a scholar, but there are still those who are conceited enough and look down on guards. This girl was polite, and clearly it was not an act. "Oh, I must apologize. I didn't know. Very well then, thank you very much for informing me." She then excused herself and finally entered the room. She sat down at the backmost part before taking a deep breath and closing her eyes, waiting for the time to start. She could hear people entering. Some were reviewing, others were chatting. She remained there, sitting with eyes closed. Others would glance at her, since she's not moving. She looks like a sleeping doll. She felt someone tugging at her arm. "Why would they place a doll here? I want this seat. Why don't you move your doll?" She opened her eyes and looked at the lady tugging at her arm. Those who saw her move actually screamed, while others actually fell from their seats. The lady who was tugging at her arm screamed at the top of her lungs as she fell on the floor. Hazel covered her ears. It felt like her eardrums were ruptured by her shout. "I'm sorry, but I am not a doll. I am also an examinee here." "Aren't you a bit too much shouting like that? I am not a ghost, you know," she added inwardly. "What is going on here? Will all of you take your seats already?" What brought everyone back to their senses was when the teacher in charge entered and spoke. "Are you all right?" Hazel could only stand up and stretched her hand out to the lady who was still sitting on the floor. I'm fine, thank you," she replied as she accepted Hazel's hand and stood up. She thanked her and hurriedly looked for a chair to sit on. Her conceited attitude a while ago was gone. The shock from suddenly seeing a doll move must have sent it away, and the embarrassment that accompanied it turned her face red. She could only bury herself in her bag as she searched for her pencil and pens. Hazel shrugged it off and sat down once again. The teacher handed the test questionnaires and gave them 2 hours to finish them. Looking at her own paper, Hazel couldn't help but smile. These questions were too easy for her. Like elementary-level questions. The questionnaire has different parts, including the basics, but a third of it was on computer science topics. Questions regarding databases, programming language, or what kind of syntax is suitable for a certain program execution. But most of the questions were regarding the flowchart. As she answered, her pen flew through the paper like she was just writing a paragraph for her English class. And this actually caught the teacher's attention, for the others were having a bit of difficulty on some of the questions. The questions were just made by the student council president. She can't know of it beforehand. If she excels here, then she must be a genius. A penny for your thoughts? Reviews, comments, and suggestions are very much welcome. The teacher took note of her. Computer science was their main department. If someone excellent could be harvested in their school, then that would be a great gain for them. That is why even the student council president was actually the... Hazel finished all the questions in an hour. That is because she was tired of writing and would sometimes rest before continuing the questions. After putting down her pen and looking at the paper 2 more times, checking that everything was right, she finally stood up and passed her paper. The other students looked at her in shock. Did she finish everything, or did she simply give up? Half of them still had half to answer. The others were about to give up. They felt like their minds are about to explode. But the person who looked like a doll had passed her paper after an hour. It didn't escape the teacher's eyes the way she had checked her answers twice. She is also a cautious one. She seemed to have an easy time answering the questions, but she still double-checked everything before passing her paper. He couldn't help but to nod in agreement to this action. Only a few are as cautious as this young child. Hazel bowed to the teacher before leaving the room. She was also excited on touring the school more. It was just 11, she still has 1 hour before the exams finished, and so she still has time to roam around. She ended up coming to the gazebo in a mini park in the campus. There was also a small pond and flowers. She sat down and took a deep breath and closed her eyes. This place is truly beautiful. I wonder if all schools are the same. But this seemed to be the most prestigious. Even the air is so clean. So this is what school is like? It wasn't bad at all. Her thoughts wandered as she kept her eyes closed. She wasn't just admiring the place, but was also thinking about her plans. What steps she must take? Where should she start? There's too much for her to do, but towards the end she still ended up with having too little of money. I will not use that card any longer. It's a good thing I still have that other card which Mom and I created in secret. With the amount I received during my muse times, there's already a huge amount. But using it for school is not a good option. Well, at least they have scholars here. Adding to that, starting a company would mean a rather huge amount of investment. I also need to search for some investors. And most especially, I need trustworthy employees. Really, there's so much for me to do. She gave a sigh. Most of all, I need to search for the one whom the promise was made. Soon she couldn't help but frown. I am a person, please stop staring at me, she said after a long while. She could feel a stare. He was startled. He was curiously looking at the doll in the gazebo, thinking who would be leaving such a doll in here. Then It suddenly spoke and opened her eyes. Her chestnut-colored hair with her amber-colored eyes. She really looks like a real doll. He just looked away and went his way. Hazel looked at him curiously. He has a face that could make anyone fall for him instantly. His jet-black hair and black eyes makes one to think that they were looking into a whirlpool, like it was sucking you in. She just then frustrated and stood up, going to the main entrance. There, already waiting for her, was Chloe and Maya, who were talking about their own exams. Seeing their happy looks, she knew they did well and is confident in passing. You roamed around, didn't you?" Chloe asked the moment she saw her. Hazel just smiled at them. She then shrugged as if saying, "Well, I have nothing else to do." "You should have waited for us." "We wanted to tour the place as well," she pouted as she clinged onto Hazel's arm. "What time did you finish?" Just now?" "Then you really can't tour now. After exam, we still have our job to go to. It was already very nice for the manager to allow us to take the afternoon duty," Hazel replied as she poked Chloe's forehead. Maya just shook her head by the childish act of this cousin of hers. They then went their way. "That was her." The teacher in charge of the computer science examination pointed at the CCTV where the three girls were visible. In front of it was the same young man that Hazel saw in the gazebo. His exquisite brows slightly furrowed. The way she sat down a while ago looked like she was someone who was more on the girly side. Who would have thought that she was actually good at computers? Looking at the paper filled with nothing but correct answers, his lips turned into a slight smile that no one would notice. They could gain a very good asset. It is good that she had decided to enroll in this school. And seeing how all of the answers were correct, she obviously is the top-ranked student of the department. But a question appeared in his mind. She seemed to be a daughter of a well-off family. Why did she apply for a scholarship? He then looked at the name after dismissing the teacher. Owen. A man in his late 20s appeared before him. "Yes, young master?" "Hazel Stone. Try and check her background." After giving the command, he leaned in his chair. It was not his routine to walk around, but somehow he suddenly felt like walking a while ago as he waited for the students to finish the exams. After that, he met that girl in the gazebo, and then, by returning, he found out that she became the top scorer among the scholars this year. This man looked mature, but he was actually just 18 years old this year. He was none other than the student council president for the computer science department. University A have different presidents for every department. This allows little work for them, but overall, the one who still received every report was him. Knock, knock. After giving a terse reply, the door opened and came two of the other presidents of each department. "Hey, Caleb, hear this. We have a perfect scorer this time." A man with a clean-cut black hair and dark brown eyes. His demeanor was that a relaxed one, but his outfit was as trendy as it could be. Caleb Vance, son of the owner of University A, or so that was his identity here. But in reality, he was someone else. He came here to check on something. Each of them have papers in their hands. Caleb raised his brow. "What does that have to do with me, Kyle?" Kyle Preston, son of a renowned fashion designer not just in Star Country but in other countries as well. His mother was a model who was among the top. "Come on, Zach, this is the only way we could be better than you." Another young man with chocolate brown hair and brown eyes came forward and said. This was Jason Shaw, son of the owner of Shaw Corporation, one of the well-known business tycoons of Country A, and have expanded on other countries as well. The two of them then placed two papers in front of Caleb. There were already marks on it, but the scores weren't perfect. Instead, there were only 2 to 3 mistakes, which is already remarkable for the exams of such university. A smug smile on their faces as they look at Caleb. "That's not perfect." "Geez, that is almost perfect already." "I say, just how high is your top? It must be far lower." Kyle's words slowly turned into a whisper after seeing the paper on the side of Caleb's table. Jason followed his line of sight and was utterly shocked as well. The paper was filled with check marks, and the score was a stunning 100%. Caleb glanced at it as well, without much of a change in his face. "I suppose that is a perfect score, don't you think?" How did this happen? There's such another god after you?" Kyle blurted out. "Where did that come from? After you came, not one could compare to you. Even the seniors back then have no say to you," Jason couldn't help but add as they stare at the paper. "Hazel Stone? What family did she come from?" Then their eyes went to where she lives. This. After placing down both papers, Maya Miller, Chloe Miller, Hazel Stone. All three were the top scorers, and all three lived on the same hotel, Snowfall Hotel. "I say, that hotel seems to be hiding quite a number of talents," Kyle asked as he looked at the other two. But Caleb's mind were somewhere else. Hotel? She lives in a hotel? In the middle of the night, Hazel opened her eyes. They were not hazy but was alert. She didn't move and remained in her laying position. Another 10 minutes passed before she finally sat up. Her brows were furrowed. He was good. I only felt him when he was halfway through and checking the things around the room. He didn't seem to be someone who likes to rob. He just seemed to be searching for something. She stood up and went out to get some drink. Checking the time, it was already 2 in the morning. After serving herself with coffee, she went and sat down in the sofa as she looked around. Some things have slight changes in their position. If you don't have such splendid memory, surely you wouldn't even notice that someone have gone through your things. It is too early for those people to find out that I am alive. No one really knew me here. Plus, to be able to arrive here at the last floor without alerting anyone. No, that's a wrong thought. This is a hotel after all. Anyone could just go and visit people. She then shook her head as she drank more from her coffee. That's also impossible. The reception would surely ask who they wanted to visit and inform the person involved. Unless they went out of their way to check in? For a simple checking of my things? They wouldn't go that far, I suppose. She walked back in her room with her cup as she opened the laptop sitting by the table. Putting down her mug, she started entering a string of commands before every CCTV in the Snowfall Hotel were displayed before her. She removed those from the floors in the middle and focused those close to her and the ones near the ground floor, the ones outside, and the ones in the parking lot. She entered another string of commands, and the CCTV displayed the scenes 4 hours prior. She then sat there, sipping from her mug, as she watched every scene carefully. Another 15 minutes, and a smile appeared on her lips. A minute change. When someone didn't focus, they wouldn't even notice it. But I must apologize to that, mister. I am someone who loves checking things to its minute details. She then leaned on the chair, falling into another deep thought. Some of the cameras were hacked. A second before the scenes reappeared, there was a minute cut on it. If it is a well-trained person, that is more than enough for them to move. Whoever this person is, he didn't underestimate the hotel, despite it being almost at its end. He had someone hack through the cameras as he kept moving. But who would check on me? Who would check on Hazel Stone? This was the question on her mind until she finished her coffee. As she exited the CCTV videos, her movements paused. "The school," she blurted out. "That's right. That is the only place I made something major to. I must have perfected the exam, and so they checked on me? But why? Isn't it normal that 1 or 2 people could do it?" A thought ran through her mind. She went out to make herself another mug of coffee before returning to her room. Just as she was about to type more in her laptop, she stopped. That's not good. I have to create more defensive barriers against other people. I think that those people might have an idea that I am the muse. She then started typing, layer after layer, creating a defensive barrier on her laptop, in precaution for an attempt she was about to make. It is not bad to make sure that the other party does not intend to do something bad. It was already 3:30 in the morning when she was done with her barriers. She was about to take a sip when she frowned. Her coffee mug was once again empty. With a sigh, she stood up. This time she took her laptop with her and placed it by the kitchen counter. I'll just sit here then, closer to the coffee maker. Maybe I should buy a bigger mug next time, she thought as she made herself another cup. Your coffee intake is getting overboard. You need to be wary of that. She couldn't help but to have a sad smile upon remembering her mother's words. I'll take care of my body, mother. Plus, I only drink this much when I am in front of such a formidable opponent. After settling down, she stretched her fingers and started getting inside the computer science department database. During this time, Owen was giving his report to Caleb. It is not that he was waiting for it, but that he just came out from another meeting with some business outside the country. He was young, but he was competent enough that some businesses were already under him. Alert, alert. Just as Owen was done with his report that no one knows where Hazel Stone came from and that she came from outside back in July, Caleb's computer rang, indicating that someone was trying to breach the department's database. He was about to counter when an alert appeared before him. Hey, what do you want? Hazel Stone here. This message was accompanied with a smiley face and a waving hand. Caleb's brows furrowed, checking the time. It was already 4 in the morning. 2 hours after Owen came from where that girl lived. Taking everything into consideration, he came up with the idea that she must have tried her breaching an hour ago. Him being the one who created the defense of the database, and for her to only breach it in an hour. She must be a good one, not just in papers, that is. Owen was wondering what or who it was, but before he could ask, Caleb have dismissed him. With a bow, he retreated and left the room. Owen was the only one who accompanied Caleb in this country. The other bodyguards were already from here. Oh, aren't you fast? The reply came 3 minutes after she typed her message. A smile bloomed in her face as she took another sip of coffee. 30 minutes is still long. If I did my best, surely it might have only taken me 5 minutes best. So why are you checking me out? And is it possible to know who you might be? The one who came in must be under you, right? Caleb had an impeccable smile. She was sure of her words. She knew how this world works somehow. So his idea was a bit wrong. She had actually got in faster than he thought. With a gentle tap on his table, he started replying. I'm amazed. In such a short span of time, you knew who came to you. Upon reading his reply, Hazel pouted. If this were to get longer, then surely someone would notice that the Muse have come online once again. Anyway, tell me what you want, and could you please send an account where I can contact you instead? I really am not fond of this kind of communication. You aside, others might already be starting to crack my defenses, so I really can't take that long to chat with you. He tapped at the table upon receiving her reply. What does he need from her? He just got curious by this person, so he wanted to know. Who would have thought that she will suddenly come in the most interesting way? A dummy is fine as well. Someone as capable as you, I must say if it was someone else, it would have taken them a month or maybe a year to break past your defenses. You pique my interest. As he was in deep thought, another message came. Then the doll-like face appeared in his mind. After a few more thoughts, he gave her his number. Hazel choked on her coffee. Is this man serious? He had given her a number? This is not his personal number, right? Bye-bye then, she once again typed before leaving and exiting everything. She did not forget to ensure that no one has placed their gaze upon her. Caleb was even more baffled than her. He had given her his personal number just because his interest was piqued? He then just shrugged it off, thinking that he could just change any time he wants. Plus, is there someone out there who could threaten him? After recreating the barriers, he leaned back on his chair, closing his eyes to catch up some sleep. This is both a tiring and unexpected night for him. Hazel, on the other hand, saved in her phone the number given to her, naming it Interesting. Her naming sense was indeed lacking, but who cares? But isn't this unfair? He knows my name, but I don't even know his. Plus, he didn't reply why he had searched about me. She slapped her forehead upon realizing this. She had indeed forgotten to know who he was. Oh, well, his number is with me. Whether it's true or not, or whether he'll reply or not, it's all the same. I'll just have to ask around who it was that created the database, and I'll know who he is. Ding! What woke Caleb up was the sound of a message in his phone. Looking at the time, it was already 6 a.m. He was able to sleep for an hour and a half. Rubbing his tired eyes, he picked up his phone and checked who it was. From XXXXXXXXX. Hey, is this really your number? Anyway, you didn't answer my question at all. What do you want? His brows furrowed. That girl, does she have no plans of sleeping? Without replying, he stood up and went to the room inside the office. There are no major things to be done today, so he can sleep more. His bedroom was a simple one, just like a hotel room with its own bathroom and kitchen. Without changing out of his clothes, he lay down and continued the sleep that was interrupted. Hazel waited for another hour. She had been thinking since she cut off their communication, but she really can't come up with an idea of the reason why he had checked on her. Could he be the principal? An old man? Her thoughts wondered as she washed up. After that brief communication, she no longer felt sleepy despite having only 2 hours of sleep. She was still creating some web pages until midnight. After making herself a toast and fried some bacon, she was about to get another cup of coffee but stopped herself. She had way too much already, so she just took a glass of milk to match with her breakfast. As she ate, she kept glancing at her phone. She was always a curious one. Since that person replied to her message of inquiry, she became curious as to who would it have been. Is he the one who created the security of the database? Well, if it was against the students and a few people who might want to hack it, it is very solid. It just so happens that I am one of the best, so I was able to get in. With a smug smile, she munched down on her toast. She was not just a curious person, she was a bit narcissistic as well. This is a good day for her. After arriving here, she had been feeling really down, but for the first time her spirit was actually lifted. Her real personality came out, a curious one who was thirsty of knowledge. She continued her day like usual, went to their part-time job, and during breaks, she would check if he had replied. Upon returning to the hotel, she helped out in the kitchen this time. She's enjoying her small work there, washing the dishes. Since young, she never got the chance to do any household chores, so she was very curious. Adding to that, she really loves the water. Washing the dishes and doing the laundry are her most favorite. This even made Beatrice and the other girls feel a bit guilty. It was a job done by the employees, not even Chloe and Maya enjoys it or barely do it. But Hazel was enthusiastic whenever it is her time to do those things. The laundry was done by the laundry shops before, but since they are at the edge, they could only do it themselves. It was tiring and irritating at times because you are always wet, but Hazel enjoys it a lot. They really can't say anything. There was one time where they finally asked the question, "Why do you enjoy doing the dishes and the laundry? They are some tiring chores." Chloe couldn't help but ask. With a smile, Hazel replied, "My family and I enjoyed swimming the most, especially when it's summer." At times we would go to the beach, and other times we would just stay home. But the feeling of the water have always been our favorite. She then smiled sheepishly. Was it too shallow of a reason to like doing the dishes and the laundry? Maya and Chloe could only shake their heads with the thought. The naivety of a rich young lady. She must really like it not just because of the water, but because she have never done it before. Then you must have liked the rain as well? Maya asked this time. Hazel's smile became obviously strained after hearing this. Before. They then remembered that she appeared here during a storm that was going on for a few days already. It only let up after 3 days of her being here. Sorry, that is… Maya, who asked the question, became flustered. No, I don't particularly hate it, but it is just that rain is a sad thing, Hazel said before she walked away and continued with other chores. Rain is a sad thing, Chloe repeated as they watched her back. Back to today, after doing everything she needs to do, it was already past 7 in the evening, and there was still no reply to her message. 2. Interesting. Hey, did you give a hoax number? That's rude, you know. Send 7:45 p.m. to interesting. You have to tell me why you are checking on me. Send 7:47 p.m. to interesting. Do I have to hack the database again? I really don't want to, though. Send 7:51 p.m. to interesting. Do I really have to? I'm really curious, you know. 7:40 p.m. Caleb's brows are twitching. He just got into another meeting at 7:30, and since he was used that his parents and the other 3 are the only ones who knew his number, and they barely message him, he didn't put it in silent mode. Who would have thought that that girl would be sending so many messages within the span of 10 minutes? Are you all right, Zach? We can continue this another time, the one whom he was speaking to asked upon noticing the change in him. No, it's all right. But you must be careful, Ronan. You do know they have eyes everywhere. If we want this to expand, no one must know or find any kind of trail, he replied, full of authority. Ding, ding. You don't have to worry. We made sure not to let anything fall behind that will point things to us. I also ensured that the security is even stronger than before you left, Ronan replied. He looks to be of the same age as Caleb. His features is one whom ladies would surely fawn over. He also has this laid-back air around him, just like Kyle. For the finances, it was flowing greatly as well. It also started becoming known on another 2 countries, though the most mysterious for the people is the man behind this company. That is also a good catch, don't you think? They will become curious and would try to get close. By getting close, they will also have to buy our merchandise, but despite doing so for a long time, they still wouldn't be able to catch who it was. An imperceptible smile once again appeared on his lips. You really are in a rebellious stage now, aren't you? With a laugh, Ronan started talking leisurely with him. Right back at you. Ding ding. How are the other 2? All 3 of you actually left this to me and had fun on your own. Ronan shook his head upon saying this. Ding. Only those 2 are playing. I'm here for an official business. Though I'm glad that they are the only renowned ones, otherwise I won't be able to have a short, peaceful life, Caleb replied as he furrowed his brows. His phone still didn't stop receiving messages. He tried his best to ignore it, but she's persistent. Just as he reached out to turn it in silent mode, alert, alert! An alarm sounded on his computer indicating that someone have infiltrated the database once again. What happened? Ronan was alerted as well. They were talking on Caleb's laptop after all, and the placing allowed him to see the computer's monitor. With a sigh, Caleb picked up his phone instead and made a call. After one ring, the other end answered. Get out of the database, will you? It's not some kind of playground, he said without waiting for the other side to speak first. Oh, basing it in your voice. You must still be in your teens, Hazel replied as she left the database. She already said it. She is a curious one. So after not receiving any reply, she thought he had given her a different number. After creating some barriers, she went ahead and hacked into the department's system once again. The alarm soon stopped, and Ronan looked at Caleb in curiosity. Someone he knows hacked into the system? The system he created? He must be an amazing one, then. Something else suddenly struck him. No, the main point right now is that. If I was not mistaken, the sound of his phone kept going as we speak. He also glanced at it a few times. After seeing the alarm, instead of fighting back, he called someone. With his own number. Ronan was stupefied. So this is really your number. And why did you really check on me? Oh, and who are you, by the way? Ronan watched as Caleb's brows furrowed even more. He can also hear a non-stop chatter from the other side of the phone. Hey, are you there? Hazel couldn't hear any reply from the other side. Are you really this talkative? Caleb massaged the area between his brows as he asked, "Because you're not replying. Ask questions one at a time, then maybe I can answer." Ronan was agape. Caleb didn't drop the call at all. How can this be? Just who was the one on the other side of the call? "This is your number?" "Yes." "Who are you?" "Student council president, Caleb." "Whoa, then you really are still young. And why did you check on me? Is it because of my exam?" "Yes." "Did I pass?" I think I did, or else you wouldn't check. I also double-checked them, so I must have perfected it." "You're a narcissist, aren't you?" "Oh, you can tell? But are you really like that, checking on people who got a perfect score? What for?" "Recruitment." "To your company? Even though I'm just starting my university?" "Just because you're just entering university doesn't mean you're at the same level as them." "I like the way you think. Anyway, I can't be recruited." "Oh, why is that?" "'Cause I'm going to build my own company." Caleb was first taken aback before he gave a low chuckle. Ronan was once again shocked. He had long video called the other two, and now they are in a conference. Kyle and Jason are equally shocked. Caleb rarely stays on the phone. What more with someone who seemed to be so talkative? He even laughed. "Then Zach, why don't I help you with the database defense? You know I really get easily bored. Helping you out would ease that up. I think you can do better, but too lazy to do it right? It's a win-win situation. What do you think?" Zach? He really didn't like other people calling him that, especially those he didn't know. Oh, are you not used to being called Zach? But I like that, it's easier. Don't mind the details now, so what do you think? Should I help?" Caleb sighed in defeat. He really can't do anything to such kind of people. "I'll think about it. Don't operate me for now. I have a meeting." With that, he ended the call. "Could that person be the one who perfected the entrance scholar examination?" Kyle finally asked upon seeing him put down his phone. "Yes." "What happened?" Jason asked. "I misjudged and ended up getting another Kyle." The other three looked at each other in the screen. Ronan soon realized what was happening as he started laughing. "Are you saying that he's another talkative and irritating person?" "Hey, talkative is fine. Why did you have to add irritating?" Kyle complained upon hearing Ronan's description. "She." Instead, it was Caleb who answered. "Oh, now that's even more shocking. You actually allowed a girl to talk with you that long?" Then he remembered the first thing Kyle said after the phone call. "Could she be the one who breached your defense?" "Yes, she seemed to be the curious and narcissist type." "Now I'm getting even more curious about her. Tell me, what does she look like?" Kyle and Jason looked at Caleb inquiringly as well. Even they became curious. Caleb glanced at the monitor before giving a reply, at the same time giving the unknown number a name. A doll. Then at the phone, what was written was, "Narcissist doll." All three were left baffled upon hearing his reply. What does he mean by a doll? It was still Ronan who asked, "She looks like a doll, or her body looks like that of a doll?" Her looks flashed through his mind. She looks like a doll, even her dead eyes. Before any of them could ask more, he closed the laptop, cutting off the video call. He then leaned back on his chair as he fell into a deep thought. He can still clearly remember it, despite it being just for a few seconds. What really caught his attention was her eyes. After opening it, her eyes reflected his own 4 years ago. The look of someone who had just lost someone important to them. What past is hiding behind that face and that voice? Hazel was staring at her phone. The name had changed to Zach. Before long, she changed it once again to Caleb. His voice changed drastically after I called him Zach. Oh well, better safe than never. Since he was the student council president, sticking to him is a good option. School life wouldn't be too boring. She was indeed excited about going to school, but the thought of just sitting down on the classroom listening to the monotonous voice of the teacher for the whole day, she couldn't help but to dread over it. A few seconds passed, and she slapped her face with both hands, leaving 2 visible red handprints on her cheeks. I must not think this way. If I want to start a company that could match them, I can only do so by graduating and being eligible for starting her own company. I don't want any shadow ones at all. And that's right. He didn't deny the fact that I perfected the exam. Then I must have done so. Then I already am a university student. The first step is done. With a fist pump, she happily smiled. She stood up and turned off the lights in her room. She then used the flashlight on her phone to light up her pendant. Once again, there on the wall, an image was projected. Looking at it, she couldn't help but to laugh bitterly. We all look so happy here. Who would have thought that the beginning of everything was a stupid illness? I'm at the starting line now, Mother, Father, and I won't stop until I get them back for this. The picture was a family of 5. In the middle was a 6-year-old girl. On both her sides were a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old boys. Behind them was a loving couple. Each of them have jet black hair and dark brown eyes with their fair skin. And their looks was a few levels higher than the others. "Would you still accept me? When I return, would you forgive me?" she asked sadly as she looked at the 2 young boys. "Would you still know me? I look different now," she sobbed as she touched her chestnut-colored hair. "I want to see you." She hugged her pillow as she started crying once again. The girl who was just talking nonstop with Caleb is gone, replaced with a young, fragile girl who looks like she's about to break. "I'm trying. I'm really trying to stay the same. But Mother, Father, it's really difficult. No matter how jolly I tried myself to be, my eyes won't change at all. They look so dead. What do I do?" Once again, she cried herself to sleep. The harsh world was introduced to her at such a young age, and in just a few years, she was left alone to tackle everything on her own. No one would instantly get used to this. "Young master," Owen knocked before entering the office. After checking deeper, she seemed to have come from a different country. There are no other records of her from the other cities. After what had happened that morning, Caleb tasked Owen to look even deeper about Hazel's background. "There's another thing. On a remote road from the airport to this city, there seems to have been an accident. They said they heard a loud explosion during the storm, but only thought of it as lightning hitting something. Once the storm was over, they said that there was a spot where the tree was obviously hit hard, and the road seemed to have encountered an explosion." "What do you mean seemed?" he asked upon noticing the key word of what Owen was reporting. "That is, they didn't see anything out there." Ashton fell into deep thought. For such an explosion, surely it would have been a car. But why are there nothing? He tapped gently on his table. Someone have deliberately removed it? Then what had happened for them to remove everything? Are they hiding the identity of the one they killed? Owen didn't make another sound. Caleb's tapping means that he had fallen into a deep thought. Distracting him now is not a good thing. For them to do it in secret, and also removing evidences, surely they didn't want the leader of this country to know what they were doing. He stopped tapping and looked at Owen. "Check all flights and all those who arrived at this city from June till July. I want a complete list. Remember, it is I who's giving you the order." Upon hearing this, Owen understood that what Caleb meant was his real identity, the one hiding behind the student council president. "It seems that your identity is not as simple as you being a scholar. Then could you be related to my reason of being here as well?" He stood up and looked outside the window. It was a dark night with few stars peeking down on the city. Ding! From Mom. "The 3 years is almost up. Still no news?" A week before the beginning of school, Hazel received a call from school that she is to come and finish up some paperwork for being the top scholar of the computer science department. "Oh, there is such a thing in University A?" Chloe was baffled by the news brought to them by Hazel. They haven't heard of such a thing. They only knew that the school would contact the students who passed the scholarship to inform them that they are to attend class. Chloe and Maya both received such call. Only Hazel was different, for she had to go there herself. "But maybe there is for the top scorer. We never really heard about them anyway," Maya concluded. "In any case, I shall be going out for a bit. Please do inform Aunt Beatrice," Hazel said. She had become accustomed to this family for the past month that she had stayed here. She could call them a family friend already. But the two sides still have reserves towards each other. On the other side, Caleb have a different look than usual. He was always calm and indifferent, but currently he looks like someone who has a storm churning up inside him. And a question that kept repeating ever since he obtained the information he needed: why let her suffer 3 years? A knock soon came, and he gave a response to allow the guest to enter. Hazel entered. When she was taking the exam, she wanted to roam the whole building, but the last floor was off limits. She just found out today that the reason was because it was the student council president's office. Hearing that the one who called her was the student council president, she had the idea that it must be because of her proposal. After that day, the two of them never bothered each other again. "It's you," upon seeing a familiar face she couldn't help but say. It was the man who was staring at her back in the gazebo. Hearing her words, he first furrowed his brows before remembering that she had indeed seen his face back then. "Take a sit." Hazel was the one who furrowed her brows this time. His attitude was a few degrees different compared to the call. Nonetheless, she still took a sit. Caleb sat opposite her and looked at her intently. Aren't I here to sign some papers regarding my scholarship?" After a few minutes that nothing was happening, she decided to ask instead. 3 years was Caleb's first words. She tickled her head. What of it? Why the sudden number of years? Are you aware of a 3-year promise that is to be done in this country? Hazel, once this business promise is over, we will have a much better life. Her mother's words resounded in her mind. Then the scene of 3 years ago appeared within her. 3 years ago, in Ceres country, this country was reigned over by the Sterling Empire, one of the royals. A 13-year-old Hazel was looking outside the car, watching her parents talking to another couple who has a 5-year-old young girl with them. Her parents told her to stay in the car as they entered a restaurant garden that seemed to have been booked in advance, for no other customers were present. After another hour, her parents returned to the car and they moved away. "Mom, what did you talk about?" "Oh, about medicine. We negotiated with them about a medicine," her mother replied. "You gave them medicine?" she asked curiously as she looked at her mother in the rear mirror. "No, but we will give them once you become better. We will give it to them at Star Country," her mother replied ambiguously. Though confused, she just passed it off as something for the future, not thinking too much about it. And when she was brought here, she finally understood what medicine her parents are talking about. The little girl's face flashed through her mind once again. She has jet black hair and dark brown eyes. Upon remembering the girl's look, she looked back at the man in front of her. Looking at his facial features, she found some similarities to the two of them. So he must be her elder brother of some sort, and he is here instead of the parents to fulfill the promise? Seeing as she was not speaking, but that she had some reaction to the 3-year promise, he assumed that all his speculations were correct, and that this teen is the one to fulfill that promise. "You came to this country with your parents, where are they?" he asked straightforwardly, despite already having an idea to where they might be. Upon the mention of her parents, the dim light within Hazel's eyes disappeared once again. "That's right, the reason why we came here was because of that promise. So should I also blame them for my parents' death?" At her thought, she couldn't help but to have a bitter smile. "I can't. We have been in the run for so long already. We would only have peace for a bit, then the next moment we have to run around once again." The bitter smile she gave actually startled him. In reality, he didn't thought of the worst possible scenario. He could only think that they were already abducted. He knew the payment for the medicine after all. It was the protection of their family, for her family. "So instead of Caleb Vance, should I address you as Caleb Sterling?" Hazel reined in all her wondering thoughts and finally spoke. The laid-back girl who appeared a while ago disappeared. She leaned back, but the way she sat down exudes one of elegance and coldness. Star Country was actually one of the countries under the Sterling Empire. Sterling, Hughes, Cooper, Carter, and Price. The 5 royal families of the world, reigning over their own major country and having some minor countries under them as well. The countries were Ceres, Kuiper, Kruna, Achernar, and Apophis, respectively. Each has 3 minor countries under them. Sterling has the Star, Milky, and Comet. Hughes has the Aster, Giant, and Helios. Cooper has the Oort, Meteoroid, and Meteor. Carter has the Dwarf, Moon, and Ring. Finally, Price has the Sun, Eris, and Vulcan. All these countries are surrounding the Major 5, while these Major 5 are surrounding another country known as Celestial Country, where most of the affluent families would usually come for vacation or when there are major business biddings. Hazel have heard just as they arrive at Star Country that they will be meeting a family with the last name Sterling. A family with Sterling as their last name was only one, the same with the other royals. Though known as royals, they weren't titled as kings or queens or princes or princesses. They just have the majority of the businesses within the said countries under them. They were known as tycoons and such. "Should I say that I am lucky to be meeting one of the descendants of a royal family?" she asked indifferently. Yes, she was a curious one, but that is just one side of her. Another side was a cold, indifferent person. The personality that came out after their family have been chased around for so long. She couldn't trust anyone who approached them. Her family of 3 were well off. Both her parents became doctors, and their home was situated at Moon Country, halfway around the world from where they were running away from. And because this country was under another country, they can somehow live as peaceful as possible. But their enemies are just waiting in the shadows in order to subdue them. Something her parents completely forgot once they reached the 3-year promise. "How sure are you that I am a Sterling?" Caleb asked with narrow eyes. He could just be a messenger or such. "Your parents met my parents themselves. Together with them was your younger sister. Looking back, all of you have similarities. With that, you can put 2 and 2 together." Their surroundings turned colder. His parents never mentioned anything about them meeting the daughter of the couple who approached them back then. "No matter how much you try and intimidate me with that coldness of yours, it won't affect me, so just drop it," Hazel said as she looked him straight in the eyes. Despite him maintaining his look, Caleb was shocked by how her eyes didn't even waver by his coldness that even his subordinates would cower from. He was young indeed, but his environment allowed him to have an attitude that shows power, and he grew up being trained to remain as aloof and indifferent as possible towards the people around him. "Then let me ask you a question. Why did you have to wait for another 3 years to give us the medicine? Is it because it was still incomplete? Me? Me? Aren't you fast? Hazel asked after hearing his question. This caused him to be caught off guard. Her question was completely unrelated to what he was asking. His reaction, though, didn't bother her. You were able to find out about me and my parents and the reason of our arrival here? But before he could reply, she continued, Ah, that's right. This country was also under your jurisdiction. It's nice being a royal, isn't it? You can do as you please. You can kill people and make it look like nothing have happened. Her eyes completely lost its color after saying this. Let's just get straight to the point, he answered, his face as monotonous as ever. He didn't know why she was suddenly talking nonsense, but he didn't need it. With a smile, I'm just wondering, how sure were you that I am related to the couple before calling for me? My parents have described the couple. They said that they will appear with such appearance when the time has come, he still replied. Hazel smiled, crossed her arms in her chest. She was relaxed despite the coldness exuding from Caleb. She was still calm. She was not scared. After all, she had faced more than what others have, so even the scariest young master of the Sterling Empire was nothing to her. This even raised Caleb's curiosity of her. The very first time a girl younger than him was not even scared no matter how much he shows her his dark side, she just never flinch. You believed them just like that? I must say, aren't you a bit too lax about that? With a sigh, Caleb took out an envelope and placed it in front of Hazel. Hazel picked it up and brought out the content. It was a letter indicating their flight and time of arrival. It also has the content of where and how they are supposed to meet. It was 2 days after Hazel's arrival, in another restaurant. You stayed, despite them not showing up? She asked as she put back the letter. The 3-year promise was not yet over after all. The younger sister must have been that precious, she thought after hearing his answer. Caleb could have just checked the flight details, but he chose not to. He was planning to still wait until the promised 3 years were to end. If they still didn't contact his parents or him, then he will hunt them down for giving them false hope. It was also what his parents wanted him to do. They seem to be in a deep trouble, so the time and date they've given might change. Just try to wait until the end of the promise. Stop exuding coldness, will you? I'm not here to joke around. I'm just asking. I'm here for official business. You don't have to scare me. After a few more seconds of them staring at each other, she sighed as she decided to finally get to business and leave her bitterness behind. Truly, why should this world be in such a condition? Why do we have royals who can only be judged by other royals? She added as she sighed all over again. He furrowed his brows upon hearing this. Hazel just shrugged. I have the medicine and I can help your sister. Without going around in circles, she said straightforwardly, like saying, This is my offer to you for the business deal. Why are you still pursuing the promise? Caleb instead asked after hearing her words. It is a promise after all, she shrugged it off. But your parents are dead. The child didn't need to take responsibility for their parents' promises, Caleb asked once again indifferently. Her eyes flickered upon the mention of her parents being dead. After this, she smiled the cold one. Caleb was once again shocked. The voice from the cell phone and the intruder behind the screen were that of a playful one. Even when she just entered, she was like Kyle, who was completely relaxed about everything. Kyle could be dark at times, but his coldness didn't even reach the coldness she is exuding right now. She feels like me, he thought as he looked at her. His coldness was not something their family would usually have. Sterling Empire is, after all, a bit different from the other royals. It just so happens that Caleb have seen so many things the other children of Sterling didn't see. What of it? If they're dead, then does that mean that I can no longer fulfill that promise? She replied. Her eyes that were dead looked even more dead right now. The promise was protection to your family, right? In exchange of the medicine, after controlling himself, he finally asked. Protection? No, I have the right to change that now, she replied with arrogance exuding from her. She knows if she showed even the slightest weakness in front of him now, then her plan wouldn't work. If you are with the two of them, you'd feel the whole place have suddenly went to Antarctica. The place was so cold, even more so after Caleb heard her final words. His eyes became sharper. Don't bother scaring me. I have the right to do so after all. I am fulfilling a promise my parents created. It was not me who promised. But I am the only one who can help you right now. She didn't back down, but instead she even crossed her leg and sat arrogantly in front of him. Suddenly Caleb laughed. It feels like it was a laugh coming from the underworld. How arrogant of you to actually talk in such a way to me. So tell me, what is your price? He asked as he pulled out his checkbook. Oh, please, I don't need such a thing. I can earn the money on my own. What I need is something that could ensure my life. In, let's see, 10 years, she looked up in thought before looking back at him and said. His curiosity was once again piqued. She really does not show fear no matter what side he shows. Even the deadliest look that his subordinates would cower from does not even faze her. "What do you mean by that 10 years?" he finally backed down and asked. "Marriage." One word, and the temperature of the whole room dropped again. "Oh, please, I was only asking for a 10-year one. The marriageable age for the both of us won't come not until 4 years from now, so I will only tie you down in contract for about 6 years. After that, I will willingly sign the divorce papers. So an engagement of 4 years and marital life of 6 years. That's all, and in exchange, your sister gets to live longer." Suddenly, her vision changed instantly. She felt her body falling backwards. She knows her head will surely hit the floor, and so she just closed her eyes. But her head didn't hit anything hard, but instead, it was soft. When she opened her eyes, she met with his jet black one. "Don't take my sister's life like a game," he said in gritted teeth. He was currently on top of her. In one swift motion, he was actually able to pull her off the sofa she was sitting in and pushed her to the floor behind it. "Do I look like I'm playing with her life? When I am gambling even my own life in this," she replied, not planning on looking away from him. "I am saying that I will fulfill that 3-year promise, but I would be asking some compensation. I don't need your money and all, but what I need is your power." "What are you planning?" "Just going against some people. And currently I have no means of doing it, let alone of protecting myself. They think I'm dead, but sooner they'd know that everything was a lie, and surely they would come after my life. I just need your protection until I could defend myself on my own. Just your influence is more than enough for them not to touch me." He glared at her. "Isn't that the same as what your parents have asked? Protection?" "Indeed, the favor or compensation would have been your family's influence. A little the same to what I am asking now. But simple protection and the protection given to the daughter-in-law are two very, very different things. That is why I am asking you to be my fiancé right now and be my husband in 5 years' span of time. See that I even lessened the amount of time for our marital life. And by the way, the floor is cold. I really didn't like to catch a cold for lying down in so long in a cold floor. So could we speak once again, while sitting?" It seems that her reminder was what made Caleb realize that their position is a bit awkward, especially since his rage a while ago have deflated already. He could only stand up with her though, for he still supported her head with his hand when he pushed her down a while ago. Somehow when he pushed her down, his hand moved on its own and supported her head that should have hit the floor. Despite him not needing to, he have hurted so many girls in the past and he didn't even bother about them. Yet this woman who was like a storm that piqued his curiosity in so many ways, made his body to move and support her despite the rage. After settling down, he still stared at her coldly as his mind started thinking of commanding Owen to turn her place upside down. "Don't bother, the medicine wouldn't be found even if you turn that place upside down. And yes, even if you strip me naked you still won't find it." As if reading his mind, she chuckled before saying,